Welcome to the place where we gain knowledge through the lens of creativity. I am Aaron Dworkin, and this is Artful Science. Thanks again for joining me here on Artful Science. Today's show is Unseen Worlds, the visual art of science. And my guest is Jim Cogswell, who serves as professor at Stamp's School of Art and Design here at the University of Michigan. So I am lucky enough to get to see and know a lot of Jim's work. Jim, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Aaron. Glad to be here.
So, before we get into your work as an artist, I kind of wanted to just really touch on your background in terms of a source of inspiration. You have an amazing history, and I know we have a limited time here, but can you just tell us a little bit about, being born and raised in Japan and kind of experiences there that you feel might have informed what you now bring ultimately to your artistic work?
I'm interested that you asked that question, Aaron, and it causes me to think about influences that I'm not always aware of. I think maybe the most profound influence is being suspended between cultures. So you're never quite completely at home in one or the other. And that means that you can never take anything for granted. Because culture defines so much who we are and how we see the world. And as a result, I feel like I learned to live with doubt and uncertainty. And I happen to feel like doubt and uncertainty are absolutely essential to being an artist. You live in a state of suspended knowledge. You don't jump to conclusions. And that's probably also pretty important for being a scientist too. Now, there are other very specific influences that being raised in Japan have had on me. One is my interest in language. Growing up speaking two languages, becoming fascinated by language and becoming suspicious of language. Suspicious in the sense that language is different from the real world. But we believe the way we define the world through language. It becomes what we assume. So I'm fascinated by language. And then another thing is specific Japanese visual sensibilities, because I grew up around them. That when I started making art, I think just naturally flowed into my visual vocabulary. A certain kind of color sensibility that I respect so much. In Japan, this might be highly technical, but a kind of flattened visual field that is part of a large part of Japanese aesthetic. Narrative structures, pattern and ornament, but especially folding screens. I am fascinated by folding screens, and we can come back to that.
Awesome. No, it's amazing. And especially hearing kind of that sense that you had of duality of cultures, of kind of living in this space of uncertainty and doubt. And I know so many people, have different ways of experiencing that. I think back to my own, childhood, being adopted by a white Jewish family, ultimately reunited with Black and white birth parents, and all of these and these different dualities and how they inform us as artists and ideally as humans. So
that's fascinating, Aaron. I would love to have a conversation with you sometime about how that influenced your own movement into music.
Right. Oh, absolutely. For sure. For sure. So in this kind of duality and this initial inspiration coming from a lot of the aspects of Japanese culture, a lot of your art has ended up being at this cross section of art and science. Can you kind of give us, how did that come about, and also why?
So in school, I studied neither. I studied neither science nor art. They both seemed distant from me. I was fascinated by them, but they both seemed inaccessible. On the other hand, my cultural upbringing, my personal upbringing, made me observant and curious. And through that window, as I was trying to describe a few minutes ago, I became fascinated by our perceptions and how the way we look at the world is not the world. And our visual tools, our linguistic tools, are the way we have as human beings to navigate our way in the world. But the world is much different, more different and more complex than that.
And for just our audience who might kind of be hearing that and then not, fully is there an example you give when you say the world is not what we depict it or illustrate or describe it to be? Is there an example you could share for our audience?
Well, here's an example. If I'm teaching a drawing class and you put something down in front of people and you tell them to draw it, what they draw is influenced not just by their technical skills, not just, although that's part of it, not just by how patient and observant they are, but it's guided by their assumptions about what they're going to see. Prejudice. Let's just use that word, prejudice. We navigate the world effectively. This is terrible to say. It's frightening to say, but we navigate the world through prejudgment. If we had to reinvent the world every time we walked across a room, we'd be running into walls constantly. We have to make assumptions. But we all know also that prejudice distorts the world and creates as many barriers as it opens. So that's our human predicament.
Right. Absolutely amazing. And so kind of taking this now into some of the work that you've done, part of it is actually developing an anthropomorphic alphabet. So as, originally just trained violinist and immersed in the arts world, for me and the benefit of some of our audience, can you just share what is an anthropomorphic alphabet and why is it important for all of us?
I don't know that it's important for anybody else, but it was important for me. An anthropomorphic alphabet is an alphabet made of human figures. As I think in children's books, probably, I'm sure people have been exposed to anthropomorphic alphabets all their lives. And I think in many different cultures that use different alphabets, there are worldwide traditions of superimposing human forms on whatever linguistic, phonetic or pictorial systems are used to create text. So that kind of conflating of our natural affinity for each other and ourselves, our image of ourselves, which is the figure, conflating that with the symbolic systems that we use to represent the world is actually a fairly complex and sophisticated propensity. Why are we driven to do this? So when I first started doing it, I thought, I'm just playing a game. And then the longer I played with it, the more I realized that there was something kind of very, very profound behind my impulse.
Right.
But I tried not to take it too seriously.
Awesome.
There's an autobiographical reason, several reasons why I started doing it. Part of it having to do with being born in Japan. And my junior year of college, I went to the Chinese University of Hong Kong to study Chinese. And every night I had to memorize 30 different Chinese characters. And the only way to memorize them was to write them. That is very taxing. So I found somebody who could recommend a calligraphy teacher to make it more entertaining for me. I was not an art major. In fact, I got a C in my only art class in college. I like to tell my drawing students that. It was the only C I got in school. What is this? So I started practicing characters with a brush. Calligraphy was my introduction to art making. So that was another reason why the alphabet, anthropomorphic alphabet.
Truly, yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah.
No. I was just going to say, and then I just started using it as a generative system.
Right.
That is, using these letters that I'd created that became more and more abstract, putting them together to spell words, and then those words became paintings.
Right. Awesome. No, it's just truly extraordinary, and especially to have insight into how the projects that you do and the art that you create comes into being in the universe is really, really fascinating. So
never understand it. We tell stories about it, but
right.
Never quite.
So that takes us to your most recent project, now at our Museum of Natural History here at the University of Michigan, Unseen Worlds. So what is that about?
These things in my virtual background are microorganisms. I did about 350 ink paintings. These are little ink paintings on various microorganisms. I translated those through the help of a student assistant into digital files, and then organized those digital files into a design that spills over 1,700 square feet of our University of Michigan Museum of Natural History on their windows, applied in colorful adhesive vinyl. How that came to be.
Right.
How did that come to be? One thing leads to another. That's the fascinating thing, isn't it, Aaron? You just never know. So because you never know, you have to give yourself permission to do foolish things. So, because who knows what sense might come of it. Some years back, I did an adhesive vinyl window mural for theme semester here at the University of Michigan called The Universe, Yours to Discover. And it was on the International Year of Astronomy. And all I did was put images based on research that our astronomers were doing onto the windows of the building where the Department of Astronomy was. That then led to conversations with a cosmologist here at the university, Greg Tarley, who was studying dark matter. So Greg approached me then, some years after that, and I collaborated with him and a musician, composer, Stephen Rush. And we did a project that we titled Jeweled Net of the Vast Invisible. And it was a visualization of dark matter and an acoustic environment. So it was a video animation installation. So those experiences made me gradually more comfortable and fascinated with collaborating with artists, with scientists. When I do a big project, I make sure and take time so I won't be a total idiot to read about this area and to talk to the scientists. So doing a project like this becomes an excuse just to have a really good time.
Awesome.
I'm not expected to know the technical stuff, so anything I learn is gravy. And it's fascinating.
It's amazing, and also just hearing that development of working cross-disciplinary, and how to build these unique experiences that cross between the arts and sciences. Really amazing. So unfortunately, we are just about out of time, but wanted to kind of get a sense of, as you think about your art and transforming people or society, as someone experiences Unseen Worlds or any of your projects and or creations, do you have a hope or expectation of an outcome for them, or do you intentionally not have that? Curious, what do you hope or expect for the person who has the opportunity to experience your art?
One great benefit of doing these public installations is that they are colorful configurations on glass in public spaces. And when someone experiences them, I don't think that they think of them as art. And I really like that. Because what happens in our culture anyway is that we have come to see art as something apart from life. And that apartness keeps us from understanding that art is about experiencing the way we experience the world. In other words, it heightens our own perceptions. So my hope for these public installations is not that people see it as art, but that they experience it before they narrow it down to thinking of it as art and something that they don't understand.
Jim Cogswell, thank you for helping us gain knowledge through the lens of creativity here on Artful Science.
My pleasure, Aaron. I love talking to you.